Welcome back to Desk Careers. I'm so excited to bring two incredible guests to our spotlight today. We are meeting with the incredible Ashish and Pawan Ishwar, two brothers, incredible entrepreneurs who are bespoke tailors and director of Knights and Lords. And I'm so excited to meet them both. We have aspiring fashion designers and fashion gurus in our midst at Dubai English Speaking College and of course the UAE. And to have you both with me today is just an incredible experience. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you. Thank you for the kind introduction, Marianne. Absolute pleasure to be here.
I'm super excited to learn more about Knights and Lords. But before we do that, I thought we could dive into the younger Ashish and Pawan and maybe learn a little more about the interests that you both had before you became the incredible entrepreneurs that you are today. Ashish, you had an interest in creative writing and gemology. What is gemology, and how did you know that creative writing and gemology could potentially inspire you to do what you're doing today? Or did it? Was there a connection?
So I would say that there wasn't really a direct connection, but it definitely did hone my skills into becoming what I'm today, being a bespoke tailor and a craftsman involved jointly with running my own bespoke tailoring house. Gemology essentially is just looking at different materials, stones that the nature gives us, and how you could use that into making wonderful pieces of art, of jewelry. So, for example, you would see rubies, you would see emeralds, you would see diamonds. So just that whole myriad, that almost like a kaleidoscope of colors that you would have and you would put together into making a piece, that was really fascinating. So I did a lot of kind of reading, that interest in creating something, and that was always there. Creative writing, I think it's beautiful that how nature does provide you with a narrative, something that you can weave into a story of sorts, and that I would say is just almost like an extension to what we do. So we work with our hands, we work with fabrics, which is obviously our raw material, and then using our craft and creative energy, we create these garments for people to commission them. So it's almost kind of led into that whole storytelling, if you may, right from conception to completion. So I think in a way that has kind of helped.
I love how you really weave that in. And I'm going to come back to this because young people sometimes think the job or the career that they want to go into is almost selected in isolation to what they were interested in when they were younger. And I can see how you've really embedded that and weaved it into what you're doing today. So we're definitely going to tap back in. Pawan, while your brother was looking at gems and doing his creative writing, you also had an interest in creative writing, but you also were interested in the business side of it as well. Would you say that as a younger person, the feeling of owning your own business was in the midst, and that creativity in the writing or arts and crafts and tailoring kind of helped you, or were they completely different?
We grew up as tailors, right? We are the fourth generation of tailors, and we belong to a family of tailors. So we grew up seeing craftsmanship all around us, seeing tailoring all around us. Creativity and craftsmanship was already with us from a very early age. However, I always knew that the end game, or finally the thing that I wanted, would be having my own tailoring house. So I understood that while it's important to have the craftsmanship with you and have the precision and perfection with which you do it, and the creativity with which you do it, it was important. The business side of it was very important as well. And I understood at a very early age that that's the direction I need to take if I were to see my end goal, which is having my own tailoring house. So we were already quite adept with the creativity and the craftsmanship part of it, learning the business side of things and learning how the business of it works to keep yourself financially comfortable and afloat when you're running your own tailoring house was important to learn and understand. And that's what got me into business studies and business management and marketing as my early studies.
That's so interesting. You know, when I talk to students, And it doesn't matter whether they're from the UAE or they're from different parts of the world. Whenever I talk to students who are interested in the fashion industry or interested in going into a type of design in terms of fashion, they always seem to think they have to be an artist or they think they have to take art. But I can see that both of you had that creativity within you. Yes, okay, you were fourth generation, the business was already almost in your blood, but you were still very creative. However, when you moved into your university journey, Ashish, you graduated majoring in economics, and Pawan, you went into business administration, management, and marketing. Did you lose touch with your creative side when you were busy studying at university, or were you still able to tap into it? Because from this side of the screen, when I'm working with students, it's almost like separate worlds. But an entrepreneur in that creative industry, I almost imagine you can't afford to lose touch with the creative side. What was that like for both of you?
So let me just kind of give you a bit of a bird's eye view on that, right? So why I did pursue economics was to get kind of an idea on how market trends are from a financial perspective. So when you talk about macroeconomics and microeconomics, so what the world is going through at the moment financially, and if it gives you a view of the number of years ahead as well. So that in a way gives us an idea of trends, how the market is shaping up. Now, when you are creative, there's often this thing that happens, a person who gets creatively inclined, which we'll also talk later on about what we try to pursue with this sort of thing. They forget that it's important to be sustainable, which is what Pawan mentioned as well. They put 100% into the creative aspect of it, but they forget to kind of fuel that creativity. You need the financials in place as well. So this is what I guess gave me a good balance. So the creativity came to us at an early age through our interests and obviously through our background, family background in bespoke tailoring already. And we just needed to fuel the financial aspect of it. And that's what came in with the formal education.
And to answer your other question, Maria, the way to balance it off is while you're studying the business side of it, while you're studying marketing management, which is what I did, you can always keep your creativity alive, whether you're in school or college, whatever it is, with whatever you're passionate with. So, for example, we were very, very passionate about writing, creative writing. So we kept doing writing a lot of articles, kept writing a lot of things with regards to etiquettes of dressing the gentleman should follow, with regards to the tradition of craftsmanship and bespoke tailoring. So whatever it is that you're personally passionate about, everyone has a creative side of it. That can be music, it can be writing, it can be anything. Keep it alive, keep it going alongside what your study is. It's not important that your study needs to be in the creative side of it. So when you're learning sort of fashion designing, even fashion management and fashion marketing is important. You know, it is not. You can still be the owner of a great brand, a great fashion brand, without necessarily studying fashion designing. So your personal passion, everyone's gifted with a certain craft or a creativity in them. Your personal passion is something that you can pursue, but the study of the business side of it is very, very important for the world to enjoy your creativity while you are financially sustainable and financially you can keep yourself afloat for people to enjoy your creativity. That's very, very important. And that is what I think I and both of us, we had in the back of our mind when we were pursuing our formal studies.
That is such a mature way of thinking about it. So when you were both at university, did you have a mentor or were there role models in your lives that were saying, listen, don't just go to school and study, really keep in touch with what you want to be doing, keep your eye on where you want to take that education? Or is this the wisdom of both of you after years of experience and having gone through the journey and now looking back and thinking, you know, young people, this is, if I could do it again, this is how we would probably want to do it different?
So I think it is important to understand the difference. For that, it is important to understand the difference between a profession and a business. So being a lawyer is a profession. Being a doctor is a profession. Being a bespoke tailor is a profession. Being the owner of a hospital is a business. Being the owner of a tailoring house is a business. Being the owner of a law firm is a business. And these are two completely different things. And it is not necessary that you need to know the profession of it to be the owner of that business. It's not necessary. It is good if you are, but it's not necessary. You do have owners of hospitals who are not doctors themselves. You do have people owning fashion houses without being a fashion designer themselves. Though they both can coincide, they are two different things. So personally, no, we didn't have a mentor, but we did understand that eventually, if we were to have our own tailoring house, knowing the basics of how to run a business is very, very important. And that's where a formal study should be. And it is important also, we also understood that it's important to understand how to sort of use or implement that in our creativity. You see, at the end of the day, these are two pillars which can't work without each other. If you're creatively very, very inclined, you will still remain a professional. You will not be a successful tailoring house or successful in that profession if you're running your own business, if you didn't understand the business side of that profession and how to sort of implement basic business principles into that profession. So if you are sort of aware of both sides of it, it is definitely a plus from the people that who are not. But it is necessary, and almost as necessary to know the business side of it as it is to know the professional side of it.
Adding to that, I would just like to mention that it is important, I would say, in this day and age. Obviously, our formal education was, I would say, quite a number of years back. But in this day and age, it's good to have a mentor on board. He would kind of allow you to balance a bit of both. So what your interests are and what you should be doing to be sustainable to pursue those interests. So it really does help in this day and age. And because we've been in this for obviously quite some time now, there are times where we are sought, our ideas, our experiences are sought by young people who are starting out. And we're happy to kind of give our pitfalls, our successes as something for them to learn.
Let's narrow in on Knights and Lords. You described it as a crafting of bespoke suits. What does that really mean for a young person that is new in the industry, not really quite sure? What does that mean? And what are you guys known for in the region and around the world?
So what we do is we do handcrafting of clothing, of garments that are commissioned by people. Now, you would say that in the past couple of decades, from 1960s to about now, the Industrial Revolution came in and people got exposed to ready-to-wear, something that was already available at stores. They would see, they would try, they would pick it up and they would wear. Prior to that, so if you talk about your father, your grandfather, your great-grandfather, and that generation, really, they would, anything that they would need would have to be commissioned. So there would be an act of choosing raw materials, going through a session with a craftsman and getting that made under their watchful eyes and see it come into existence. So this is what we practice, a very traditional craft. Incidentally, bespoke, the term itself, has its genesis within tailoring, and now obviously it's used across a wide range of industries quite widely. But bespoke means to be spoken for, to bespeak, the act of commissioning something, which at the time was a person would look at a bolt of fabric and say that, yes, I have spoken for this. I would like something to be crafted out of this.
And see, when something is crafted especially for you, it's made, it's made for you. It's commissioned by you, keeping your lifestyle and your personal preferences and your personality in mind. You're essentially wearing an extension of yourself, of your personality, and dressing like not who you are, but who you want to be. So the traditional responsibility of bespoke tailors is to give people or equip people with something that puts them in the image of the person they want to be in, let's say, 4 or 5 years from today. And it's supposed to act like an anchor to become that person and to reach your full potential. Which is why bespoke tailoring earlier was an original of it was in military uniforms or battle dresses, and then later on evolved into the kind of suit that we wear today, because the battles that we fight today are different in the boardroom and such. But the idea behind it is to wear what you are and put yourself as a person or in the image of the person who you want to be. Start wearing that today, start believing that today, start becoming that person today, and allow that to act like an anchor to achieving your full potential and achieving to be that person who you want to be.
Wow, you've really taken the art of tailoring to a completely different level. I'm just so impressed with the whole, I think it's the creativity that you both tap into and just what you described right now, and how the individual or your ideal client is not just getting some clothes made. They're actually really thinking about who they are and who they identify with and what they want to be projecting out. I mean, is that common in your industry in terms of other tailoring houses, or is this the special little something that Knights and Lords offers?
So it is what traditionally the responsibility of bespoke tailors has been this. However, as we are living in a very, very commercial world and things have become very commercialized, it is very common to find tailoring houses which practice their craft or run their tailoring house solely as a business and ignore the professional side of it, which is where we are able to balance because we are tailors ourselves. But to answer your question, no, it's not common. But at a point in time in history, it was. It is the true responsibility of bespoke tailors right in history, right from the time of Henry Poole, which was the first bespoke tailor in London, in Savile Row, who had clients like Napoleon Bonaparte, had clients like Rothschild, had clients who have changed the face of the world. The responsibility of this tailor was always to equip this gentleman with something that acts like an armor to bring himself to who he wants to be, which is what I mentioned. So no, it is the basic responsibility, if you go back in history, of a bespoke tailor to bring that person to the full potential.
I would just like to add a sentence or two to that. So what we do, obviously, at Knights and Lords is, or how it is a bit different, if you may, is it's only Pawan and myself here that attend to each and every single person. So right from the start, when we're talking about a drafting session, and then something getting created under our watchful eye, and again, the entire number of fittings that we have with this person. So if you may, there is a sense of energy that goes into it. So when a person discusses the commission, what they want to get made, be it for work, be it for special occasion, be it for black tie event, be it for their wedding, if it's a person who would like to get something for their prom, a father who wants to get his son started on their first bespoke journey. So we understand the purpose, and there's obviously an energy that goes into crafting the commission, because when the intention is given out to us, that is what we use to make sure that this particular commission serves its purpose.
And it is our responsibility essentially is to everybody has this image of themselves of who they want to be in their mind. They just don't know it. So our responsibility is to draw out that image from their mind, bring that into existence through our craftsmanship, and give it to that person. That's our responsibility, essentially.
Wow.
To sort of
so
bring into
amazing.
existence what the person has in their mind, in the depths of their mind, and give it to them right now. So once they start wearing it, it's not somewhere in the back of their mind. It is who they are right now once they've worn it and looked at themselves in the mirror.
I mean, very simply put, it's just pulling it out of their subconscious and giving it a conscious physicality.
Correct. Yeah.
So I'm thinking about a young person right now listening to this and watching you both and thinking, oh my goodness, how do I get work experience? I'm hearing some of the skills that I'm not sure if they were intentional skills that you've learned, or they kind of molded their way into or embedded themselves into your career. I mean, you must be incredible listeners in order to be able to communicate with your clients. You must be able to also translate what your client is looking for to the tailors as well. And I'm sure that it's really important and very essential that, as you said, it doesn't get lost in translation. Are those things that you learned at school or just learned in trade?
I think that is something that we have learned over time with experience, because what this entails is visualization. Now, whenever you talk about a creative art, whenever you talk about fashion designing, when you talk about bespoke tailoring or creating something, whenever you talk about even writing something, an aspect of visualization is important. When you're writing something, let's say creative writing, you have a visualization of the image you wish to paint, and you're supposed to write it in a manner that the reader gets that same kind of picture, the same kind of visuals, the same kind of image in their mind when they're reading it. This is a similar thing, and all creative crafts are similar in this aspect, whereby the image or the visualization needs to be clear in the person's mind. So when the person is describing, or when the person commissioning it is describing it, the image that the person is trying to paint, we need to write it down, we need to draw it out, we need to do everything on paper to make sure that image is clearly transmitted to us. And we have that image fresh in our mind when we are cutting and crafting it. That image needs to be very fresh in our artisans and craftsmen's mind as well, so that once it's created and once it comes into existence, it is exactly what the person had in their mind. Now, it is unfortunate that in today's time, the younger generation and what British have difficulty visualizing, and the problem is that we have been sort of force fed with so much of marketing, adverts, ready to wear, that you're not able to visualize what I want myself to look like or what I want myself to be. But if you read any book, maybe a self-help book, maybe motivational books, anything, everything will tell you that if you were to attract something in your life, if you were to manifest something, visualization is very important, and the only thing that's required. If you do not have the ability to visualize something, it is something that I highly recommend everyone to start developing at a very, very early age, because anything that you want to accomplish in life, a clear visualization is very, very important.
I love it. I feel like we're taking this conversation to incredible waters, especially being right at the beginning of a new year. This idea of visualization, definitely something we hear a lot about. Ashish, you're listening to Pawan, and he's telling us this, I mean, these incredible insights. How do you work together with your brother? Because that has got to tread on all kinds of waters as well. I mean, family working together, and then also kind of relating with each other. Does it ever get complicated, or have you always just really been able to work together and remain understanding that you're both professionals in this industry, but you're still family?
Let me say that it's a very bespoke, tailored approach. Yes, I mean, we obviously have our ways of working. There is being two different individuals, we're quite unique. The way we think, the way we interact, be it with clients, be it with people, with ourselves as well. Now, obviously, over the years, we have understood, or rather understood, that how a person would react. You would know that how I would react, and vice versa, right? In certain situations. So yes, we do. There is obviously ifs and buts on a daily basis, but we know that yes, we have to work together, and that's something that keeps us grounded and just working in harmony with each other. But we have also kind of given this sort of independence to each other. For example, if there's a particular commission that I wouldn't want to take, Pawan wouldn't question me, and vice versa. And there could be a multitude of reasons why we do that at times. There have been times where people have requested us to doing something and we have not, for various reasons. Not because it's not really within our capability to doing that, but if it doesn't work with regards to, for example, timelines or reasons as such, at times we don't take up commissions as well. and we respect each other's decisions. So then there's no question that why you didn't do this, you should have done this better, this could have been handled in this way. So even if those discussions be handled very sensitively, but it's not something that either of us is answerable to the other when decisions like these need to be taken.
And I think it's important to understand that when you're doing teamwork, there should be no sort of, we've faced this in college, we've always been taught this, and we've faced this you face it in professional companies and such. We believe that there should not be a team leader. Everyone in the team should have absolute power and the absolute power to make decisions and to veto decisions. So, for example, if there is, like you mentioned, a situation where we want to do this and another person doesn't agree, you don't question it. Fine. You've decided no for whatever reason, done. Only if you both agree or if you both agree to a certain something will it go ahead, otherwise it won't. As simple as that. So both of us have absolute power and both of us have absolute power to veto as well, and which makes it quite simple, where we don't have to justify, where we don't have to analyze, we don't have to do anything. For whatever reason, whatever the reason may be, you feel something, person has said no, done. No worries, we'll go on to the next thing that we need to do.
That's amazing. Definitely egos are not welcome, I guess, in this kind of a partnership, right? I mean, it must be a little bit challenging when you know that clients want to take on a service, but one of you might not want to take on the client and the other one is going to have to say, okay, I completely trust you. That has to be a learning journey on its own. I imagine that didn't always be. It must have been something that you've learned how to do together, or is it something that existed in, you mentioned being a fourth generation in this industry. Is that something that you see or have seen in your family upbringing, or is this something that you both developed?
I think it comes down to understanding, like I mentioned earlier, the balance between the profession and the business side of it. So you can't run your business solely as a business and only taking decisions that are supposed to financially advance you. And you can't take decisions solely from the creativity aspect and solely for the profession side of it. Now, if a commission that wants to be placed with us does not hold good or tick all the boxes of the creative and the business side of it, we will take it. So, for example, if the commission is not serving a purpose, if it's not aligned with what we want to do as our philosophy in bespoke tailoring, if the person is not ready for it, for whatever the reason may be, we'll not take it. The business side of it then takes a backseat. We don't care if that assists us in our financial advancement or not, because we need to remain true to our craft as well. Now, if we are remaining true to our craft, at the same time, it's a great person and everything, but it does not make financial sense, we'll not do it either. Only when all the boxes are ticked will we go ahead with that decision or with that commission or whatever that may be.
Fantastic. Okay, let's talk a little bit about your career journey highlights. I mean, we're going to drop some names here: Mike Tyson, Louis Fonsi, Jay Sean, Kelis, King Oyo of Uganda, and Sacha, Jafri. How do these individuals find you, or do you find the right individual and make yourself known to them?
So, I mean, this obviously crafting governance for these people that you've just mentioned didn't happen obviously on day one. If I can just go back from the time when we started, we used to do a lot of writing. We used to do a lot of creating awareness about what we do, because especially here in the region, the UAE, people were not really aware of what is the traditional bespoke craftsmanship in regards to suits. People were mostly in tune with off the peg or classical tailoring, which I would say is not really bespoke. Again, we could have an episode just talking about off the peg, made to measure, and bespoke. There's just too many things to list. So firstly, it was to kind of create that sort of awareness of what we do, which took a number of years. After that, people came and found out, and they reached out to us. Okay, so firstly, we would have interactions. If I can just kind of give you examples, someone would walk into a tailoring house and be like, "I want a blue suit." and expect this to be done within 15 minutes flat. And these were the people that we would have to turn away. Why? Because we'd be like, you have to kind of schedule a time to come in, because the initial discussion itself is 90 minutes long. And they would be surprised. They'd be like, is there really that much to talk about? We're like, yes, because you would have to come in. We would have to understand, what is the purpose of this? Is it a day-to-day thing? Is it something for special occasions? Is it for your board meeting? What is the purpose of it? When you're talking about blue, just as a color, there's 50 different hues of blue that we could talk about, right? From your sky blue, electric blue to navy blue. What is it? We have to look through reams of fabric. We need to talk about styling. What is it? Are you looking for something that's a bit more relaxed? Are you looking for something that puts you in an elevated state? What is the end result of this commission? We need to understand. And obviously then completing the drafting session and ending it with measurements. So creating that awareness in this part of the region was initially a challenge. Now it's obviously through word of mouth and people obviously seeing our craft, it's become a lot easier. But yes, creating that groundwork was the most challenging time, which took us a number of years. Once that happened, then people would really seek out what exactly is bespoke, what is the crafts that go about it, and they would see that, okay, who are the ones that practice it truest to its sense? And that's when we would see that people just organically, naturally coming to our doorstep and saying that, yes, this is something that we need to do. And hence, even some notable people, like you mentioned, their assistants and got in touch with us whenever they would be around in this part of the world, or if they are based here. And yes, we had the good fortune of crafting that.
See, I think it's just important to understand that, when you talk about marketing and again, being in business studies earlier, we talk about the 4 Ps, and we talk about a lot of in-depth analysis when it comes to doing that, creating a marketing campaign, going out there and pushing on people's faces and everything. When it comes to the creative field, this needs to be taken very, very differently, because what you're doing is made for a person. It's a one-on-one made for this individual. You need to connect with this individual one-on-one. You can't go on a more wider scale the way it's taught in business schools. So when it comes to the creative industry, there's only one key that you need to take care of, which is people. You need to make people aware of exactly what you're doing, not push it on their face through writing, through other things, just create awareness for what you're doing. And the right kind of people will reach your doorstep as long as they fit in to the kind of service and they're looking for the kind of service that you provide. So you just need to do what you're doing, do it well, and make people aware of it. That's all. And then the right people will reach your doorstep, like we have witnessed ourselves, including these notable figures that you've mentioned.
Amazing. And I almost imagine it wouldn't matter who the individual was, every client would be given that same bespoke quality of service. And it must feel amazing, because not only are you creating a garment for someone, you're also listening to a story. You're listening to a part of their life that they are sharing with you. It must develop some deep connections as well as the business side of everything that you do.
Absolutely. I'd like to mention a couple of interesting commissions that we have done, of course, without mentioning any names. But for example, one gentleman I remember clearly, and this just goes to show, that the different dimensions that bespoke tailoring can sort of go into, and the limit at which creativity can be stretched. So there was this one gentleman who, during his session, kept excusing himself every 5 minutes. And wanted to step outside every 5 minutes. And it's obviously a long session, 90 minutes, but he kept taking a break every 5 minutes, stepping out. And eventually we were like, what's going on? Is there something wrong? Is there something we can help with? What's the matter? So this gentleman mentioned that he has a chronic smoking habit, and it's something that he's quite sort of troubled with, and he needs to excuse himself every 5 minutes for a smoke. It's something that he can't help. And the fact that we realized that is something that it troubles him and something he wants to overcome was enough for us to start, thinking about something. So during the first fitting session, what we did was we made 5 individual slits inside his jacket, individual slits, each being able to hold a single cigarette without it being able to topple over each other, but only 5 intentionally, because this gentleman was 2 packs thick, right? So when he came for his fitting, he said, "Wow, this is amazing. It's very stylish. Now I can just pick it up from here. I don't need to bulge my trousers, X, Y, Z." And he said that there's only five. We said, "Yes, there's only five. You know, if you wish to remain stylish, that's what it is. There is no space for more." Even though there was, but we said no. This gentleman came exactly after 2 months to us to commission a couple of shirts, looking very stylish, no bulging pockets in his trousers, only 5 cigarettes in his jacket. We said, "You know, how is the suit working?" He's like, "It's amazing. I have cut down to 5 cigarettes a day. I'm the happiest person." So
amazing, amazing, amazing. I love it. I could talk to both of you all day, but I'm really, really conscious of your time. And I know that we need to be bringing it to a wrap. If you could walk away with giving young people one really big gem, something that you think, you know what, if you hear anything I'm telling you today, remember this gem. It's going to help you on that journey to becoming an entrepreneur. What would that be? Maybe one from each of you.
So what we did early 2020 was we wrote a book, which is The Business of Bespoke, which talks about our journey, what we did, how we came to be. And I would just like to maybe mention one of the points. There's a couple there that has actually helped us into what we do. So one thing that we go by is entrepreneurial leadership requires the ability to move quickly when the opportunity presents itself. So to be agile, to be able to make those decisions when you're presented the opportunity, to really go for it and not think too much into it.
I like that one. That's a good one.
And what I would like to mention is that whatever you're doing, as long as you're doing it well, just have patience. So you are on the road. You will reach your destination. People obviously right now are very accustomed to having things very, very quickly. But that's not how things work always. Just have patience. You will reach your destination. Just keep doing what you're doing. Do it well, and just be on it.
Amazing. I feel like you're talking to me directly. This is incredible. I have had so much fun. I've learned so much. And I know that young people watching this right now, if they're not already inspired to become entrepreneurs, I think the both of you have definitely, flipped on a light switch for them with all of these insights. We're going to have to bring it to a wrap. This was an incredible conversation. We spoke with Ashish Ishwar and Pawan Ishwar, who are the incredible entrepreneurs of Knights and Lords, which is a bespoke tailoring house in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. Where can we find you on your socials if we are looking for you? And where can we find that incredible book?
So the book is available in all online retail stores and physical ones, right, like Magrudi's and others. You can find the book anywhere once you look for it. And our socials are in Instagram. We're quite active, so it's at Knights and Lords. And our tailoring house is in Fairmont-the-Pont, and our workroom is right next to Bentley. And you can just call us and reach us anytime with regards to whatever you like.
Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Absolute pleasure, Maria. Thank you so much for having us. It was great speaking to you.
I'm so excited. I can't wait to come and visit you both in person. Definitely going to be doing that really soon. And that brings us to the end. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And I will see you all at our next Desk Careers Digital Spotlight.